afternoon, everyone. Thanks for persevering. It's looking a little thin in the bleachers, but we'll give it energy. So I'm Stephan Pretorious. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for WPP. I have the coolest job in the industry. I get to apply AI to marketing and advertising every day and work with young, talented people to bring these technologies to life. So today I'm going to talk to you about AI and the radical evolution of creativity. We've heard a lot about AI today. A lot of people have spoken about it on the panels. I'm going to show you what we're doing with AI. So show me, don't tell me. Those who lasted until this point get the special gift of examples. Fundamentally, AI is a technology about intelligence. It's a technology that makes us think about how we think, how we make decisions, how we process information. It's a technology that allows us to bring together previously disparate ideas in new ways. And it's a technology that brings us the ability to go from imagination to representation in a much faster way. So fundamentally, it is about creativity. And the question is, how is AI going to impact creativity? Will it be positive or negative in the long run? So I'm going to go through some examples and maybe make a case why I think it's a very optimistic future. But just before I do so, a little bit of scene setting. Because it's important to understand that we are in an absolute full-out AI arms race right now. The amount of capital that's being invested in chips, in data centers, in research, in software development is like nothing we've seen in the last 2-3 decades. And it's important to understand this arms race because this is the context within which all these technologies are coming to market and are being consumed by all of us. You can't open a business newspaper or blog or app without being confronted with sort of two dimensions of AI news. On the one hand, look at these great models, they can do these wonderful things, and everyone gets excited. On the other hand, they're going to take your jobs. And then people are trapped between this notion of excitement and despondency, which is sort of very difficult to process, right? At the same time, there's an enormous investment in foundational capability that is growing almost weekly. This is just an illustration of some of the frontier models that have been published over the last couple of years. At last count in our large language model database, we've got more than 2,500 models that you can actually use today, from very small ones to very large ones. But what's important to realize about foundation models is not just that there are lots of them, but that the actual capability is increasing exponentially every time that a new one is published in terms of the amount of information it can publish, how accurate it is, how capable the model is, can it do mathematics, can it solve difficult problems, indeed, can it understand the world around it. Secondly, the developer community has responded to all this new foundation capability by building an enormous amount of new software, software at every level of the technology stack. So this is a graph that one of my good friends, Chip Ewan, put together, which is the number of GitHub repos with more than 500 stars, so they're about 850 now. And you can see the incredible exponential growth on the launch of the first GPT-3, then ChatGPT, and then beyond, and how that's accelerated software development in this space. And so this is creating a lot of new code. That's more than 1 million commits, right, of software commits in this space, which is obviously accelerating the capability further. And then lastly, the financial stakes have really never been higher. This is the share price of top 5 technology companies in the space over the period from when ChatGPT was launched in November 22 to today. Now, if WPP share price had grown by 80% between that period, I'd be extremely happy. But you can imagine what's happening here in terms of NVIDIA share price. They're just doing a split at the moment to make their stocks more affordable. But more than 4x growth over this period as people understand the need for GPUs and the need for infrastructure to power all this new capability. In terms of dealing with exponential change, though, what's happening is that people are, as I said, trapped between this notion of seeing a future which they can imagine and the reality of what they can do with it today. And so Imad Mustak, the founder of Stability, has this phrase. He says, things change both faster and slower than you think, which I think is a very useful way of thinking about it because it essentially says, the capability is changing faster than you can imagine, that you can possibly process in your mind. but the practical application of these tools, particularly in business, is slower, and much less sort of reliable and frankly satisfactory than people would imagine. And so what happens now is that there's a sort of expectation gap that starts opening up, and some people say, this technology isn't ready, I'm not going to invest, and they will become laggards. There are other people who say, I know it's not quite ready, I'm going to keep on investing, I'm going to keep on trying to make it ready and useful, and they will become the leaders. And so I think this is a sort of my own modification of the Gartner hype cycle, but I think this is exactly the kind of moment where we are right now. It's that we're in this moment of mismatched expectations, which is going to create this split. Right. So in terms of creativity, I firmly believe, and some other people said it today, that this is about the augmentation of human intelligence and human creativity. It's not about replacing human creativity or replacing human intelligence, it's about augmenting it. AI does not have volition. AI is a tool that we build, and we build these tools with goals and with objectives, and it's in our power to build them the way that we want to. So when I started going around our creative teams in the middle of 2022, just after DALL-E was launched, one of my creative directors in Canada, I asked him, how are you feeling about generative AI? Do you feel threatened? Do you think your job's going to be in jeopardy? He said, no, Stephan, not at all, actually, because the prompt is just a new art direction. And I said to him, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, if you can't prompt, then you're not going to get consistently good results. I said, yeah, but everyone can learn to prompt. And he said, no, they can't, because they haven't studied photography, they haven't studied design, they haven't studied scene descriptions, they don't understand how to compose things. And so, in a way, he saw this as something that rewarded traditional training in arts and humanities. And so the tool is very powerful, but only if you know how to input the right questions into it. And so over the last couple of months, I guess sort of 18 to 24 months, we started making more and more work as an industry that uses generative AI in a very, very creative way. I'm not talking about simple text-to-text or text-to-image generation or even text-to-video. I'm talking about high-end professional production pipelines that use generative AI in a new way to bring some creative idea to life. And so in the first example, you're using style transfer to animate the kind of one artwork reaches out, takes the Coke bottle out of the Warrell, and every time that the receiving artwork receives the Coke bottle, the style is transferred onto the bottle. Now, you could have done that with animation, but style transfer is a very, very effective way of bringing to life that kind of concept. So it's a good idea brought to life with technology. For Cadbury's now, for the third year around Diwali, we've run these large-scale consumer campaigns that use AI to connect with consumers one-on-one in a very, very significant way. So this year we did a campaign around birthday celebrations. It uses AI to compose original music, lyrics, and vocals that every consumer who engages with this campaign would receive their own personalized birthday song. Right? Simple idea, giving back to people one-on-one. You can't do that without AI as the method by which you create the idea. And then with Nike celebrating their association with Serena Williams, the idea was, well, interesting question, who's the better tennis player, Serena today or Serena when we signed her? And one of our creative directors said, well, why don't we just test it? Why don't we build 2 AI agents, have them play against each other and see? So you can bring these things to life, which otherwise you couldn't have done. And then lastly, this example for Virgin Cruises. It's one of my favorite campaigns. It's really funny. Who doesn't like J.Lo? But not only is it, do we use this idea of a licensed deepfake in the actual ad, but consumers are also able to send people invitations to cruises using her as the voice, and she can invite your partner and say, hey, Jim, come on this cruise with me this summer. It's a fantastic campaign. And so all these kind of large-scale consumer-facing communications ideas you can see can be brought to life, and how AI is effectively expanding the creative canvas, right? It is allowing us to express ourselves in ways that technically we couldn't have done before this technology became available. But it's also applicable inside the business, right? So it's not just about making work that gets seen in the wild with consumers. It's also about how we construct ideas and come up with concepts internally in businesses. And so I have this notion that real AI magic in the business process world is really through a combination of specialized domain knowledge, proprietary data, and then good prompt design. So building tools that can combine your specialized domain knowledge and your business data into new tools. And so this is an example of our WPP Creative Studio. This is the stuff that I build with my team. And this is a simple tool that we built to basically accelerate the ideation process when we start a creative ideation process. So you select the campaign idea, you select the kind of dimensions of your matrix, whether it's audience, occasions, weather, context, and the tool spits out the entire range of matrix of ideas, right? Just blocks of intersection between, in this case, weather and time of day. It gives you headlines, it gives you calls to action, and it gives you sample images that relate to that intersection of the matrix, right? Now, fundamentally, I mean, this is not work that goes out to market. This is not work we put in front of consumers, but this accelerates the ideation process. This accelerates the landscape of possible ideas, and people go, oh, that's interesting. I haven't thought about that. Let's riff off that and pull further, right? And so you can see how if you can define your business processes and you can find a clever way that AI can actually enhance that process with proprietary data and with good business process, these tools can become very, very useful. In the remaining few minutes, I love this Tim O'Reilly book. If you haven't read it, check it out. It's called WTF, What's the Future and Why It's Up to Us. What I love about that notion is really about this idea that it's good to have a view on the future, but it's also good to understand that we have agency. We can determine what we do. And so, what do I think is going to happen in the future? So firstly, we are going to have even more powerful tools. We're going to have lifelike AI assistants. And whatever you think about the strangeness of GPT-4o and the Scarlett Johansson incident, this idea that you have AI agents or applications that can see the world, perceive the world, understand what's going on around it, and then be an assistant to people is a very powerful concept in technology. It probably needs a slightly sharpened use case. It probably needs more guardrails. But I think this idea of multimodal AIs that have a worldview, that has an understanding of a world model, is very powerful. Project Astra, the Google project that has exactly the same capability, I think was illustrated in probably a more practical, sort of slightly less personal way, and therefore people are probably thinking more practically about how to apply it in tools. So that's the first thing. The second thing is models are getting both bigger and smaller, right? So Google's Gemini 1.5 was the first model with a 1 million token context window. For those of you who don't know what context windows are, it's the size of data you put into the prompt. 1 million tokens is about 2 volumes of War and Peace. Okay? It's a lot of content that you can put in the prompt in order to get an answer out. But effectively, context windows or context window limits are really arbitrary, right? So I think it was just last week, they announced a 2 million token context window for certain models. It will cost you slightly more to do, but so effectively this idea that you are limited by the amount of data you can present to the model to get an answer is going away in practical terms. But at the same time, what's happening is that there are more and more small models, tiny models that run locally. Some of these run on your browser cache. So Tiny Llama, check that out. You can run it in your browser cache. You put in the first prompt. It downloads the model's 500 meg into your browser cache. You can disconnect from the Wi-Fi, and it works locally on your machine. Those kinds of models are going to be implanted in all of our chips in our smartphones, in all the PCs that Microsoft bring out with PC plus Copilot. There's an enormous amount of onboard AI that's being made possible by small models. The other thing that's happening is that there will be commercially viable or useful text-to-video solutions. So Sora was the first one that came out with these sort of fly-through concepts. By the way, no one in this room has access to Sora, right? Because no one has, okay? Just kind of level set on that. It's not been released yet, so big hype, but not released yet. Same thing with Google's VO, exactly the same capability, short-form video, text-to-video. But, also understand that that is not the only solutions in the future. We believe that in marketing and advertising, being able to represent products very accurately using 3D models that are rendered and then combined with generative AI content is a far better way of actually getting the right results. So there are other pipelines that are necessary. The other thing that's happening is that there will be an increase of agents and chain of thought solutions that come to market. Now, what I mean by agents is, imagine you have not only one one AI agent to speak to, but 5. And those 5 have all been trained on different data. Right? So they've been trained on different worldviews, different perspectives. This is an example, again, from our Creative Studio tool, where you're building personas in order to design a campaign for a client. Firstly, we're using AI to come up with this multimodal expression of the persona. This is based on research data that's fed into the AI system. We can then inquire further about these personas. We can have a conversation with the AI about, give us additional images, or what do you think about their lifestyle, or do the kids go to school, or whatever. So you can speak to the agent as if it is a specialist or an expert on persona development. But then the key thing is you can speak to other agents that have different worldviews. So Anita, in this example, is an actual customer, and in each case, the chain of thought shows you the response. So what does Anita think about this definition of the persona? But it also explains to you why. And the why is defined by the ground truth data that we've built into the agent based on market research. And we've done that not only for a customer, we've done that for the creative director, for a dealer, for a brand marketer at the client side. And so effectively you have this kind of council of experts at your fingertips trained on all the data that's available to the entire business that you can work with to refine a question or a problem. Right? So we're going to see a lot more of this, and I think the prompt engineering is dead. Thought engineering, chain of thought engineering, I think is the future. So that's all great. These are all tools, right? More tools, more technology, more capability. I want to end on the same note that I think Sherry hit on and Patrick hit on in his last talk as well, which is this. Creativity requires diversity. By definition, creativity comes from the combination of different perspectives, different things that haven't been put together before, combining them into new and creative ways. We launched this school about 2 years ago, the WPP Creative Technology Apprenticeship, and it is the most rewarding thing that I do in my job. We hire exclusively children, young people from diverse backgrounds, largely female, and we teach them hardcore creative technology, coding, IoT, VFX, AI, the whole range of things, and then we farm them out into our agencies. And my experience with this is that this is not just, like Matt was saying, this is not just about doing good. This is good for business, because these young people are bringing more interesting ideas, more interesting perspectives, and more relevant content to our business than many people in their mid-careers who have become jaded and single-minded and single-visioned. And so I think this is the future of creativity is not just about technology. It's about arming diverse people and people that look different from most of the industry today with the tools to create the future. Thank you.